So here we are at the end of my Rose Dieta. After 3 weeks of journeying with Rose in this sacred container, I have got so many lessons and so many learnings out of it. If you haven't watched part 1 of this series where I introduce what a Rose Dieta is and I talk a little bit more about my intention, highly recommend going and watching that one first and coming back to this one so you understand the full sequence. And then part 2, I also share what a day in the life looked like. That was a really beautiful, spacious day when I was away in Hepburn, and it was fun to record and take you behind the scenes. So today we're going to unpack in part 3 all of the lessons and learnings. And honestly, I could create an entire hour-long or 2-hour-long podcast episode about this. So I'm going to do my best to keep this to 10 minutes and just really concisely summarize some of the biggest lessons I had with Rose over the past 3 weeks of journeying with the wisdom of this beautiful plant, this master teacher. So one of the big things I went into this journey with was wanting to release the proving energy that I was bringing to my life and feeling like I needed to prove myself or prove my worth or prove that I was good enough. The way that that was manifesting was me feeling like I needed to force, to hustle, to push, to really make shit happen in an unhealthy way. It was more of a toxic masculine way rather than a healthy masculine where you're bringing that aligned action and you're taking really healthy integrated actions. I was doing it more from that needing to force or coming from scarcity, not coming from wholeness. So it wasn't the action itself that was a bad thing, but I was keeping myself in this hamster wheel of feeling like I needed to just keep my head above water and keep pushing and forcing and proving so that I could get the outcome that I needed. And so because I'm so aware that our external reality is a reflection of our internal reality, this Rose Dieta was a beautiful way for me to go within and be where am I creating these patterns? Why am I causing this hamster wheel, this loop, this feeling of needing to prove myself, or this almost an addiction to pressure and just having a weird subconscious safety when I feel like I'm under pressure, and wanting to release that, wanting to be I want the spaciousness. I desire to feel peace, not pressure, to feel presence, not pressure. So yeah, that was a huge one for me. And witnessing that shift within my body of letting go of the proving and the forcing, creating space for myself was a big one. And that's a huge part of that Rose Dieta and what's involved in it. Creating the space to be able to be okay, I don't have to actually do anything. I just get to focus on who I'm being right now. And how can that completely shift my reality? And so creating this spaciousness and realizing that in my attempt just to keep my head above water and keep this hamster wheel turning, I wasn't looking at other ways to do things. I wasn't looking at the bigger picture. I wasn't looking at the greater perspective. And so when I created this space, I saw that I was trying so hard to do everything on my own and to prove that I could do it all on my own, that I wasn't seeing other ways that were actually going to really benefit and support me and my vision. And what I actually realized was, because I've been so in the busyness, I was building the wrong vision. And I had this vision that I was working towards, but I was that's not actually the vision that my heart truly desires to create, which is more of a teamwork vibe with my fiance, and for us to be building a vision together and to be moving towards having a family together, as opposed to me having to be in my solo lane of I'll do my stuff and I'll do it this way and you do your stuff over there. It's more of this merging. It's more of this moving into union, the sacred union, and that teamwork. And that's been another big lesson and theme for me, the teamwork and opening to that and really stepping fully into being a team rather than seeing myself more as I have to do everything on my own, being how can I work with my teammate, with my fiance towards this greater vision that we have together. And if you watched part 1, you'll remember I mentioned about Rose to me being a symbol of sacred union. So commonly she's associated with the divine feminine, and I absolutely see that and still feel that and believe that. And yes, she's an absolute icon for the divine feminine, but I also see her as that symbol of polarity and of sacred union. And so something I've been journeying with is wanting to healthily integrate my masculine and feminine energies within, because we all have both of those energies. And so, as I mentioned earlier about how I was in a bit more of that toxic masculine energy of the forcing or the proving or the pressure, as opposed to being in the aligned action, the protector, the forging forward with a purpose, but really in an aligned and healthy way, So bringing that in, but then also bringing in the healthy divine feminine and really leaning into more of the spontaneity, the flow, the magnetism, the radiance, the attracting, that more of that pull energy as opposed to the push and having to force. On the note of sacred union, I'm journeying with that internally with my inner masculine and feminine, but I'm also journeying with that externally with my relationship to my fiance, and seeing that as we step more into this team, how can we have this really beautiful sacred union and play out really healthy dynamics, him being in his masculine and that beautiful leadership, and me being more in that feminine, that surrendered, that magnetic essence. That's been a beautiful realization, and that's part of what led me to resigning from my job, because I realized I was building the wrong vision. I realized I was trying to do everything on my own, and I was like, hold on, I'm part of a team and we have a different vision, and this job actually doesn't fit with that vision anymore. It served its purpose, it needed to be there when it was there, and now it's time for me to move on and for me to shift my focus and stop building the wrong vision, and now put my energy, my time, my attention into the right vision. So it's really beautiful to see different intentions and different lessons weaving together there. And I look forward to seeing what this new chapter brings, because if you watched my part 2 day in a life video, you'll see that I did resign from my job and I have now finished up at that job. And I've created this extra spaciousness, which is beautiful timing as my partner and I go to India in less than a week. So we get to explore what this vision looks like, and we get to go into co-hosting a retreat and working together, and me supporting with some of the creative projects I love, like photography and videography for this retreat, and helping to increase the awareness and support with the marketing of future retreats in India too. So that feels really exciting and really aligned, and that also feels on theme with like me stepping more into that feminine, because the feminine is so creative. So being able to, rather than being stuck in the pressure of like I have to do things or I have to focus on this that I've been conditioned to feel like, and being more in that scarcity energy, now I have this energy to create and to be in that beautiful feminine quality of creation, and allow my creativity to come back through creative projects. Even this vlog here, this is something that's been on my heart for so long, and now that I'm actually here doing it, this is part of me getting to express, to create, to just choose to follow what feels aligned and follow what feels exciting and expansive for me. One of the other lessons I received from Rose was to start to see the world through rose-colored glasses. I actually even bought myself rose-colored glasses. They're just love heart glasses that are pink in color, and seeing the world through rose-colored glasses to me means seeing the world through love. So rather than seeing it through fear or judgment or anything like that, which is easy to do when we are in our ego, when we are in our head, when there's unhealthy patterns playing out, it's really aiming to, as much as I can, I don't expect to be perfect, but as much as I can, seeing the world through love. So putting the lens of love through everything, even if it's something that feels a little bit triggering, or if it is something I am judging or that I feel afraid of, seeing if I can find the love underneath that, and seeing if I can look at things differently and change my perspective. And that also links into the study I've been doing of A Course in Miracles, and how only love is real and everything else is meaningless. Everything else, it's not the truth, because love is the truth. So when we start to see the world through a different lens and to retrain the way we see the world, that makes a huge difference. So wearing rose-colored glasses is another one of my beautiful lessons. And yeah, I bought myself those to be a symbol of that, so that I can remember if I am more in that fear or that scarcity or old conditioning or patterning or wounding, that I can put those rose-colored glasses on, and that can be a physical representation and reminder, but then also just reminding myself throughout the days. And I do find A Course in Miracles and the daily lessons are also helping with that as well. It was very much also a very heart-opening time. Rose is a big heart opener, and there was a lot that needed to be cleared to support with that, because what happens is when we have resentments, when we have fear, when we have judgments, when we have sadness, grievances, when there's rage or anger in our heart or around our heart, it's blocking that love that is there, that is within us, that's always able to be tapped into. So there were different clearing conversations that were had. There were different processing of things that I was still holding onto from the past in my emotional and energetic backpack that I had to take out of that backpack and put down and to move through. And one of the lessons and the kind of quotes that I was journeying with at times was the only way out is through. So it was really allowing myself to go through the emotions, not bypass them, not distract myself from them, and to really just sit with them and to go in and through them and allow myself just to be in them and have compassion and love for feeling these ways that were at times uncomfortable, and compassion and love for the different wounds that I had arising or the different grievances I had, and being able to open to forgiveness for myself, for others. So that was really beautiful, seeing the ways that Rose helped me open my heart more and helped me put down things that I don't need to be carrying anymore and that I've been carrying for far too long. It was, very hard, expansive, very much a journey of self-love as well, and seeing the ways that I've loved different parts of my shadow that I might not have loved or that I might have judged. And I'm not perfect. There will continue to be things that come up that I judge, or parts of myself that I'm not aware of or that I don't fully love. But seeing the progression on that, moving towards that more wholeness, because for me, that wholeness, it's not just feeling like amazing all the time and loving the shiny parts of ourselves. It's loving the parts of me that are messy, that are dark, that have more negative connotations on them too, the more shadowy side of myself, not just the light side of myself. So the more I can love all of me, that's where I really come back to that wholeness. So I'm feeling more of that empowerment that comes with the wholeness and with the unconditional love for self, because I have looked at parts of myself that I was previously judging, and I've loved them, and I've had compassion for them, or I've had awareness and acceptance. And I'm on that journey to reclaiming more of these parts of myself that I have previously judged or shamed or tried to suppress. So that's been a big one as well, and coming back to that wholeness. And I think that Rose is a really beautiful representation of that, especially through her polarities and the spectrums that she represents to me. One other thing I'll share that I feel like I'm still kind of processing and still understanding what the lesson is behind it is, in the last week of the Dieta, I was struggling so hard to actually stick to it. And there were so many times where I was like, I've done 2 weeks, I've got so much, my life has completely changed, I've resigned from my job, I feel so empowered and liberated in all these ways. Why don't I just stop? Why don't I just go back to eating these foods? Or why don't I just tweak it a little bit? Or, I don't have to follow it to a T. And thankfully I stuck with it, and I chose to keep going, and I chose to see out the full 3 weeks and keep my word to myself and stay in integrity with what I had promised myself on the agreement I had made with Rose. So I'm very grateful for that. But there were some times where I was really considering backing out. There was even a time where I sat with Rose and I was like, is it time for me to wrap this up? And there was that part of me that was searching for the permission to be like, I want to end this, and can you give me permission to end this? And the answer came through that it was like, it's not time, you need to see this through. And I think what it could be for me is there's so many times that I've started things and not finished them, particularly to do with creative projects or business stuff. And so I think for me, it was like witnessing that part of me that wanted to get out of things early or didn't want to see it through to completion, and not buying into it and allowing myself to witness it and be like, hey, I see that you don't want to do this right now, and it's okay, and digging a little bit for why that might be, but then also really allowing myself to see it through and stick to my word. So that was another big thing that came up for me, and I feel like there's still something in that I can unpack a little bit more, but I do see that it was probably to do with integrity and keeping my word to myself and seeing something through and finishing what I start, especially when it's important to me. I'm gonna wrap it up there. That has been some of the higher level lessons that I have received from Rose. Like I said, there's so much that I have learned, and there's probably more that will continue to drop in and integrate. I remember in my first Dieta I did with Rose, it was really about reclaiming the magic and stepping into my priestess archetype. And this is where that life as a ceremony theme really started to come through strong, because at the start of the year, that was already something that I set as an intention for the year. But then in April or around that time when I did that first Rose Dieta, it really allowed me to see, it's like, yes, I have this archetype within me that is this priestess, that is really in tune with the unseen, with the ethereal, with the spirit world, with seeing everything as sacred and reverent, and with magic, with miracles, and really allowing myself to start seeing that again and to start reconnecting with my magic and the magic all around me. So that was a big theme of the first one, and that carried through this one as well. But this one obviously had its different flavors. And in the theme of life as a ceremony, another thing I did get from this particular Dieta was that the ceremony isn't just in the stillness, it's not just in the beauty, it's not just in the actual times that feel feel like more ceremonial and more sacred, it's also in the chaos, it's also in the mess, it's also in the busyness. And so there were times in my Rose Dieta that I was thrown back into those patterns of the busyness or the hamster wheel that I was referring to earlier. And the lesson for me was to surrender to them and to allow myself to find the calm, to find the peace, the presence, the sacredness, the reverence, even in those times where I previously have judged them as being not sacred or not ceremonial. So really seeing all of life as a ceremony, not just the parts that I pick and choose that feel a bit more ceremonial. So that was another lesson, but I'm gonna leave it there. That has been my Rose Dieta, my 3-week journey with Rose this time around. I hope you've enjoyed following this journey and learning more about what a Rose Dieta is, seeing what a day in the life can look like, and learning some of the lessons that I learned and uncovered through this process. For now, I'm stepping into this beautiful time away in India where my fiance is running an advanced meditation retreat and I will be supporting him over there. As I mentioned, I'll be doing some of the creative things like the photography and the videography, and I'll also be a support space holder and be there to really help to amplify and elevate him and support him in his holding process. And we also have some time in an ashram beforehand. We have some travel time. So I will, of course, be vlogging all of this. And that's the next series that you can look forward to, all around our time in India and the different flavors of what we get up to while we are there. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and follow along the journey. And please feel free to give this video a thumbs up. Please feel free to comment and leave any of your thoughts or feelings in the comments. I do love to read them and hear from you. And thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.